What's going on, everybody? I know it's been a long time since I made my last video, probably a couple years ago. It's only because I didn't have any ideas on what kind of videos to come out with. So, just kind of just didn't end up making a video, and then life gets busy and things like that. But coming up, I will have a little bit more free time. So if you guys have any video suggestions on what you'd like to see next, definitely let me know. So I originally started making YouTube videos to kind of help people you know, find out what to expect when going into basic training. And then I did a couple videos along the way of, how to maintain those, different things or different things going on in the military at the time. But what I want to talk to about today is actually very important for people that are getting out of active duty and transitioning to the reserves, or are getting out completely, or getting out of the reserves and going to the inactive reserves. So before transitioning to the reserves, this is for active duty people. You really want to know how the reserves work. And what I mean by that is, I don't just mean like the whole 2 days a weekend and 2 weeks a year type of thing. I'm talking about the way that the reserves work. I'm talking about the fact that you're gonna show up there, and a lot of those guys, they don't want to be there. They're just trying to do their 2 days a weekend. They feel that the military is interrupting their regular civilian life, and they just want to leave and get on with their lives for the next month and not talk to you till next drill. That's the way that a lot of units work. The other thing that is in the reserves that's different from active duty: we don't march every day. We don't call cadence every day. Now, fortunately, me, I always try to keep that stuff up, so it's like I never missed a beat when I went to drill. Others, not so much. You'll have guys that they haven't marched in forever. Their about face looks like a basic training about face. They don't know cadences, so it can be a lot different than what someone is accustomed to, coming from the active duty side. So, and then, when it comes to the whole 1 week in a month and 2 weeks a year, let me tell you, that is bullshit. Unless you're going to try to fly under the radar somehow and not get any excess training, let me tell you things that they do in alternative to that. So, there are some days that they will do 3-day drills, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And some months you might not have drill. Some months you might only have a 1-day drill, and then when it comes to your ATs, for those of you who plan on going to school, sometimes they do that shit right in the middle of the semester, and you don't even know until the last minute. And sometimes you know in advance, but sometimes you don't know until the last minute. So I know I had that come up for me. I know it came up for a couple people that were in my unit. Fortunately for me, when it came up for me, I was in my master's program, and I do that online right now. So that's not a big deal for me, but I know others who, they're going to school, or they're in an intense program that doesn't require it, that they're not allowed to take any time off with. So it's very difficult for them to work around that schedule. And then the other thing is, if you go to, regular courses, BLC, if you're trying to be specialist, trying to be a sergeant, ALC or SLC, if you're trying to go to any of those schools, you're probably not going to do it while you're deployed, so you're probably going to have to take time off on your own to do it, and that doesn't count towards your annual training, and it doesn't count towards your drill weekends. So that's something that's completely separate. So you have to take that into consideration, UPL, which is what I did. There's a couple of, maybe MOS specific courses that they might try to send you to, or they might tell you to do and sign you up for it, and you don't know until a couple weeks out. So there's definitely things like that go on. So don't have that mindset like, yeah, it's just 1 week in a month and 2 weeks a year, because no. I might have had that maybe the first year I was in, maybe the first 2 years, the last 4, hell no. And then the other thing is, if you're in an MOS that deploys a lot, be prepared to deploy. And I know they have a new rule that just came out where you pretty much have to deploy every so often. It's no longer of like, oh, I went on deployment, taking 8 years off, going to the next deployment. I had a couple guys that went shortly after I went with them, and then they went again shortly after, or I had somebody that just came back recently. So deployments can definitely come up in random spurts. So that's another thing to take into consideration when joining the reserves. And I know even though you're transitioning, you may have 4 years in the reserve, so they might try to deploy you within the first year or two. So just don't be surprised. I mean, it's some things I don't mind getting deployed, but other people they don't feel the same way. Especially when they're leaving active duty to go to the reserves, it's obviously for a reason. Like they want to go to school or something like that. The other thing is that when you're transitioning from active duty to the reserves, or you're transitioning from the reserves to getting out, you want to take into consideration: do you have a plan A through Z on what you're going to do? You're coming from active duty where you're making a set. You might not be making the best money, but you're making a set income every single month. And some of you guys out there getting married, having families. You got to support the families. Maybe the wife doesn't work. So do you have a plan on what you're gonna do when you get out? I feel like I see a lot of these people in the reserves, both new reserves and active to reserve, and they're still trying to figure out what they're trying to do in life. So you have to definitely take that into consideration on if you actually have a plan or if you're just trying to get out because you hate the military. And that also applies to going in the inactive and getting out of the military. Because for me, like, I wanted to have a plan when I got out. I wanted to be able to make sure that I was more than set, which I am, fortunately. I've landed a good job. I've gotten the move. I moved out of the state finally. So everything had lined up. And I had a backup plan. So my previous job, I was actually making more money. I just, was tired of the 60-hour work weeks. But if I needed to, I had a plan B to go to do that, But, some people, I feel like they get out and, the military, they're offering everybody an opportunity to have a career with them. So you definitely want to take that into consideration when you're getting out. Because a lot of people, or some people, regret getting out of the military once they're out, and then in the inactive period, they allow you to come back in. They're gonna try to text you, call you, email you, blow your shit up. But once you're out, you're out, and it's very hard to get back in. And it's the same way when you're a reservist. It's very hard to go back to active duty. I actually know several people that have tried to go active duty and it didn't work. I have known a couple people that successfully transitioned, but that does not happen a lot. I promise you, it does not happen a lot. Especially with the downsizing of the military, it is not something and it's a long process. It takes about a year or a little bit more than that. So you definitely want to have a plan for that. The other thing for reservists, if you're going for active duty to reserves, is PT. That's one very important thing. Some of the, everyone thinks like, oh, everybody in the military, is, likes PT and all this other shit. But those of you that are in the military, you guys know for a fact that a lot of people don't like doing PT. So when you're a reservist, you're not waking up at 0500 every morning doing PT anymore. Now you're doing that shit on your own, and you got to pass your own PT test. So are you able to do that? And then they do the whole classic, depending on what kind of unit or depending on what your unit's like. But sometimes you may have that Friday night, 7:30 p.m. phone call or text message like, hey, just to let you know, PT test tomorrow. And you're like, what the fuck? You're like, yep, PT test in the morning, 05:30. Better be there and ready. And you're sitting there eating the pizza, whatever. So shit like that happens, and you don't pass your PT test. Some people will be taking that shit every month. So I know, because I used to grade it every month. So yeah, that's for me, I got out because I got everything I wanted out of it. I think I was gonna get out regardless, just if I had a plan. But I wanted to become a sergeant, which I did, and I wanted to deploy, which I did, and I got promoted while I was deployed. So I did everything I wanted to do when I was in, and the other thing that people do is they'll get out because they don't like their unit. And for those of you that are like that, especially reservists, I don't really know how it works with the active duty side. But the reservists, I mean, you can always transfer into another unit. You can figure it out. I feel like there's too many people that get out because they don't like their unit. Not necessarily that they don't like the military, they just don't want to put up with the unit anymore. They don't want to put up with the MOS anymore. So I feel like you should try to definitely reach out to like retention, see if they can try to hook you up with that, or even if you want to like pass up the chain to try to see if you can switch units, because there are units out there that can hold you back from having a successful career in the reserves. None that I've been a part of really. And I actually really liked my last unit. It actually was like, oh shit, do I actually want to get out? Like, yeah, I want to get out. I was already planning on getting out. But I mean, obviously, I missed the guys in the unit, and I had a good chain. I had good soldiers. Everything was good. But for me, it was just time to get out. And everything just fell into place in the right way. So if you guys like this video, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. If you have any video suggestions, let me know. Because I will make more videos, depending on what you guys ask and things like that. So if you have any other questions, let me know. And I'll talk to you guys soon.